Welcome to Invincipod, probably the best podcast about the Amazon TV original show Invincible. I'm James.
I'm Ralph.
And I think I changed that intro very slightly every single time.
It's fine. You know what?
Yeah.
The
I'm pretty sure
Invincible
the
podcast.
comics. Yeah.
But the Invincible podcast starts with probably the greatest.
Oh man, we've been doing it longer than them though, haven't we?
No. I think they've been
Okay.
doing it since. I think they've been covering the comics.
Oh, okay.
But it's fine. I mean, it's kind of it makes sense.
It's if you read the books, you know.
Also, it's not an absolute statement.
No, it's only probably like we don't know.
It's up to anybody. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I like both.
I like both. How you doing, Ralph? I feel like I've spent more time with you this week than anyone else.
Yeah, it's been a week.
It has been a week.
And it's been a nuts week. And I've been like super crazy busy with the movie. I look really pale today, and I don't know why.
Have you been hanging out with Eve? I noticed that Eve was very pale in this episode.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I did. I did a second watch this afternoon. I was able to get a second watch in, and I was noticing little details like that.
Yeah, I at one point this week I decided to go through a short box. I have one short box left. I made a short box for my brother-in-law and gave it to him, and he's been doing restoring and CGC grading of books.
Oh wow!
And so I was going through some books, and I was like, I might just take these there too, because I read it all digital. But I found this. I have one copy of Invincible that I found.
Nice.
And look what he's wearing.
Oh, it's a great one. It's the one of the Wolfman. Is that the crossover issue?
Yeah, it's part 1 of 2.
Yeah.
I also have a bunch of Wolfman in there, but as soon as I saw this, I'm like, I don't know, maybe I do like the black and blue suit.
Good. It looked really good.
I don't know. And then I watched last night's episode, or today's episode, technically, I guess. I don't know. It was probably today for you.
It was, it was midnight. It dropped at midnight UK time. So it's still today's episode.
I do a lot of wild theorizing on the shows we do.
Yep.
And I feel like something I mentioned last week is coming true.
I am 100% with you. Last week, I didn't notice it as much as you did, but I was like, I could believe that. I could see that happening. This time round, after this episode, I'm 100% with you. If it's not that, then they're trolling on purpose.
Right, but we're talking about the black and blue suit. I mentioned that when the Invincible thing came up and the blood blacked out the whole screen, and then there's a crack, I noticed there was a lot of blue. This time around, I noticed there was a lot of blue, but the Invincible logo was black.
Yeah.
And I think at the end of these 4 episodes,
it's the right blue as well.
Yeah. Angstrom, we had it teased today.
Yep.
Angstrom's going to, I think, at the end of these 4 episodes, because Kirkman said it's a good stopping place to pause and then get into the next season. It's a good setup for the back half of the season, and I think we're going to see the Invincible War. And I think Angstrom's going to bring out all the Invincibles to fight our Invincible for what he did to all the Angstroms, and
we could get the black and blue as early as next week potentially.
Right.
Like it's just one of those things. Like, get beat up early in the episode, has a fight, gets beat up, goes and visits Art, and we get some Mark Hamill, and he's like, well, I've been thinking about a change. I want to differentiate myself from that guy that everyone saw on TV fighting Omni-Man.
Right.
And so, okay, I've been working on something. It's more of a slick design. Those big knee pads and things like that can go. Like, so here you go. I don't know. I like the version 2. Yeah. I like the version 2 of the colors of this suit. So like with all the slickness of the black and blue, but back in OG colors. That's that's peak Invincible.
Oh, okay. And then speaking of predictions, I mean, I felt like this was kind of an obvious one, but it didn't hit me until my rewatch. That Darkwing magnetized those 2 dudes to the silo on top of that building, and I'm like,
well, that
I don't know if it's in the comics.
I think it is,
but I could see Is it in the comics? Because I could see Kirkman does that. It's like seeing the Vulture.
They love
in season 1.
Recurring panels. Yeah.
Yeah.
Callback jokes like that. Like never drawn attention to it, but like if you remember that single panel, it'll be framed exactly the same. Like it's just the same, but with a tweak to it. I'm pretty sure it's from the comics. If not, it's so close to gags that they did in the comics. That
if it's exactly like Kirkman would do that shit, like like bringing back the bag of trash that he threw in the air, bringing back. I don't know what the Vulture's name is. Do you know what the Vulture is? Because it happened in the comic. It happened in it happened in season 1.
Yeah,
where Mark was flying into space and you just see him kind of float in the frame like a dead body. Like that's so Kirkman. So maybe it's
I can't wait.
I
can't wait until we see London. I can't wait until we see London and like
we saw London.
No, but I mean in this episode, like after this episode, where like the graduation cap comes down as well, and like the evolution of the London like cult.
I feel bad. So I watch it with Stevie. Stevie's read some of Invincible, a lot of Invincible. I don't know if she's read the whole thing, but I'm sitting there, I'm watching, and I'm like, pretty sure Mark makes it to his graduation because there's the famous cover of him throwing the hat way higher.
Yeah.
and then he grabs his hat, and I like split seconds before it happens, I say, he's gonna throw his hat way higher.
Yeah.
And then she like ruined it for her. But it's one of those things where I'm so excited seeing stuff from the comics pop up in here. I mentioned last week that I wasn't really into Engstrom Levy that much, his storyline, but I thought they did a good job, and I was excited about the episode. This episode I'm really excited about. I feel like if anybody's curious about what the book Invincible is like, I feel like this episode encapsulates it so much more.
Yeah. They covered like 6 issues worth of stuff, I think, in this. Like each one of those little stories that we got in this episode are probably an issue, sometimes 2 issues of the comic.
Yeah.
But it's done so well that I never feel slighted. Like I remember the Darkwing stuff, and I remember like that issue ends with him trapped in the shadow realm or whatever it is.
Right.
Like and then the next issue picks up and it's him getting out and trying to figure out how to get out. Whereas in this they do it tight. Like and they do it really quick, and they make Mark threatening in it, which I think is a really good way of doing that and keeping that in the forefront of our minds, that like Mark isn't his father, but he's still a Viltrumite. He's still got that dog in him.
He could still use his dad's reputation as,
and he can scare people, and he needs to scare people. And it's how far do you lean into that?
Or does that shadow area bring out the darkness in you?
Could be. I'd like.
Will he reflect on that and doing that?
Maybe. And then we're talking about the costume. Like he definitely leans. I wouldn't say darker when he's wearing that costume, but it's the equivalent of Robin becoming Nightwing. That's like Mark is such a parallel to like Dick Grayson in general, but it's very much becoming his own man, not becoming like maturing. Really, like
in this episode, Debbie calls him. Kid. The last days of his being a kid, and he's like, I'm an adult, and we've all
he's
gone
18
through
now. Like, absolutely. It is that awkward cusp period where he's still at home, he is still a kid, but he's not. And we see he's 18, he's graduated,
and then we see Eve, who's fully competent and can function on her own,
living in Kashyyyk,
like
yeah, and her dad is the absolute worst still. You said you watched this with Stevie, and like Stevie's read some of Invincible. We watched this time around, Liz and I, and she watched season 1 and loved season 1, and then I gave her like the first 3 trades to read, and she read through all those. She hasn't read any more since then. But absolutely blasted through them. But is excited to watch this show and just sits there and just be giggling the whole way through. When this episode finished, she sort of turns to me. She's like, "I really like the show because it's really funny." And all the way through, whenever we got like Doc Seismic or the Lizard League or any of the other bad guys, she's just like, "I love the bad guys in this. They're the best. They're the absolute best." And then also in this one, we get Shapesmith, We get Russ Livingston.
Right.
Back.
Okay.
Like,
There's so many things you're bringing up that I want to talk about. First of all,
I just like my notes are just lists of names.
Okay, so for those of you that haven't read the book, and James says that this is probably like 6 issues.
I don't know. That was a guess. Yeah.
But I'm just saying, as an example, like if you want to read this book, if you want to read Invincible, it would probably take you as long as this episode to get through 6 issues of Invincible. It reads, the pacing of the show is equivalent to the pacing in the book. And the book is, I'm not much of a reader, but I can just blast through the book. It's so entertaining.
And you and I are both like comic fans who like comic books. So like, it's not like, I know some comic readers, like when I was working at the shop, there was a guy who he'd read through every single comic. He'd read through like a Bendis book. He'd read through an issue of Powers in like 2 minutes. And I'm just like, are you even taking in what's on the page? Like, but it's just going word balloon to word balloon. Whereas you and I, like, you read in a comic book because you want the art. Like, that's the point of a comic book. It's so like, I'm taking it all in, but
unless you just want to consume the story. But the thing with the comic is, I'm going to open up to a random page of the thing. Like Ryan Otley's art is so concise and so perfect that you don't need to sit there and stare. They do that thing where he repeats the same panels, so that the only thing that really matters is the word balloons. And there's a joke brought up in one of the early episodes about reusing panels.
It's when he goes to visit the essentially Kirkman at the comic book shop, isn't it? It's the Science Dog writer, and he talks about lazy artists.
So look at the amount of art versus the words. So you're not really reading that much. So for me, you're looking at the pictures, but since the story moves at such a quick pace, you want to like blink as fast as you can and get all the information in the image so you can get to the next one.
That's it. Like that's, I think the best comic art is that. Like,
and Otley is so good at his page layouts. It's just, you can just blast through it. Oh man, Otley's Wolfman.
Oh, it's the best. It's the
like,
best.
Was it Ryan Howard? It wasn't Ryan Howard.
Yeah, that's. Where is it?
He did Super Dinosaur, and I just looked it up too.
It's on a different shelf. I can't see it. It's around the corner.
but the art is like so concise. The characters pop. I don't know if that's FCO. I don't know if that's Otley's layouts, but the characters are so, maybe because they're so bright. Like the show, like the characters are so bright and colorful and stand out that you know,
it just pops. It's just
it's just so easy. It's such an easy page turner because it's not super dense like a McFarlane style where you have to like really look at it and take in all the detail. It's like
one of those comic artists. I'm trying to remember his name. He did an Oni press book, little black and white Oni press book called Wonton Soup. That guy, he's amazing. But his stuff is so dense that like you want to like blow it up and put it on a wall and just look at it because there's so much going on. It's great comic book art, but it's more like just really cool dense art that you want to watch.
It's Jason Howard.
Jason Howard. There you go. I knew that was Howard. As soon as you said Howard, I was like, that sounds right.
Yeah, because Stevie said, isn't that the guy from
BJ Novak?
The Office? Yeah.
BJ Novak's in the show, isn't he? I'm sure he is.
I don't know. I'll tell you who is in the show. Ben Schwartz. And I got confused. I got confused.
He's a couple of characters.
Well, yeah, but I was like, oh, when the astronaut Martian came, and I was like, oh, that sounds like Ben Schwartz. I'm pretty sure that's Ben Schwartz. I'm a big fan of Sonic. I'm a big fan of Ben Schwartz. And I'm like,
Ben Schwartz. Yeah, he's great.
And then Shapesmith comes in. I'm like, wait, that's also Ben Schwartz. That's also Ben Schwartz. And it took me far too long to realize it's the same character. It's the Martian becomes the shapeshift or Shapesmith. And
he's also the criminal on the roof that Darkwing is fighting. At the beginning when we first see Darkwing, like he's that guy as well. So it's like you get people in the booth, just voices. Totally. Yeah. So that was the other one. Like amazingly, like they had Tatiana Maslany playing the forewoman of that construction site that Eve goes to.
Right.
And it was just like, okay, so she's probably another character but they just had her in the booth and were like, oh, can you read these few lines as well? Give us a gruff voice for that.
I talk about Ben Schwartz for a second.
Hit me.
For years, Ben Schwartz has been championing this. After the Suicide Squad came out that James Gunn directed, he really started hitting James Gunn pretty hard, tossing his hat in the ring to play Plastic Man. Perfect. And Ben Schwartz would be the perfect Plastic Man. Yeah. And I feel like Robert Kirkman saw those Twitter interactions and was like, you want to be Plastic Man?
Here's your audition. Yeah.
And I fucking, as soon as I saw that he was Shapesmith, I was like, this is the Kirkman. If Kirkman wants all these characters to be one for one like DC or Marvel characters, usually hangs out closer to DC.
For these guys, yeah.
I was like, oh my gosh, what a fucking great like poll to use Ben Schwartz. Yeah. Like,
it's I don't know if I ever thought
that he was the type of character. Yeah. But it was so good.
The voice casting in this, like you look at the names and you go, wow, that's amazing, that's so good that they got this person, that person. But then the pairing of the actor to the character, and then the way that they are delivering, the portrayals that they are doing, are all so good. Like we everyone loves Jason Mantzoukas. Mantzoukas is great, but when I first sort of thought of him as not Robot, as oh my god, why am I blanking on his name? Rex. Yes, Rex. When I first thought of him as Rex, I was like, oh, I don't know. That's not how I read Rex before. But then as soon as he starts talking and as soon as he starts being a douchebag, you're like, oh, this is so good. And this episode, they're like the introduction of Rex in this episode where he's coming in and he's pissing and moaning about getting beaten up in training. And then just the way he's like, oh, fuck my life as he walks off. It's like, there's no one else.
It's so Rex.
Yeah, it's so
I'm still trying to get used to it because I've listened to I don't know how many hours of
Mantzoukas.
How did this get made?
Okay, yeah.
And so like just hearing his voice, I'm so associated with him. Yeah. So his is like one of the tougher ones. I think Gillian Jacobs is another. But I'm really getting there. I'm really he's really turning into Rex for me.
I really enjoyed. I was thinking about it on my second watch through this time when Eve was rebuilding that apartment block, and when she builds the community park, I was like, oh my god, Eve as a character is who Britta always wanted to be in Community.
Right.
Like she always wants to be that, like she's bleeding heart liberal, like wants to do everything for everyone. She wants to give, but she's also kind of selfish. At the same time, she's still a bit of a dick. Like she still like is in it for herself, but
self-righteous.
Like, yeah, very, very self-righteous, but still like wanting to do it for the right reasons. And it's like, that I just saw it and I was like, oh my god, this is Britta if she got superpowers to like make anything. Yeah.
Which I never really thought of Eve that way in the books.
No.
Just having her as Eve, like for me, completely changes the character.
Having her around,
more of a character.
Having her around, because when she goes to Africa in the books, she's gone for a little bit.
Yeah.
Like she goes away and she's helping out stuff there. She's creating rivers and she's like helping Africa a lot, but we don't see much. We check in with her every now and then, but we don't see her constantly. Whereas this, I think, is really smart. It's like she still like is living out there. She's still living in her like Kashyyyk treehouse, and she's having a great time. They're having parties. She's growing beer on trees, but she's also like she's coming back to quote unquote home to help out all the time. She's still going to school, so
I think she's going to school. And she says during the graduation, like, oh, this is why I don't do superhero stuff anymore.
Yeah.
And she wants just any semblance of normalcy. She didn't get that from her family. She didn't get that from, the
doctor who created
the teen teams.
Yeah.
The teen team. Or it's just she wants to be left alone.
Yeah.
But she also needs people there for her. And she doesn't know how to do that.
She's got her core group with Mark, William, and Amber now. Like I feel like she's good with them, but she's obviously still struggling with her parents massively.
Yeah.
Her dad is the worst. Fuck that guy.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, he made like a decent point, I guess.
But I mean, yeah,
But,
I see where
like,
he's coming from, but it's just the way
yeah,
he's
but he's so awful.
yeah.
And the
Yeah.
mom is so passive. It's
You feel
bad.
bad for her. She's
It's bad.
yeah.
I do like the way that the show deals with family. You don't see it a lot. It's mentioned in we didn't talk about this when we were talking about The Last Jedi the other day on our other show, live action Star Wars, but in that Rian Johnson says, everyone's looking at the Luke Skywalker, but it might not be what you want.
Yeah.
It might not be the thing you need. It might not be the thing you think you're going to be getting. And that's like you expect to go see Luke Skywalker and he's just like fucking done.
Yeah.
And wants nothing to do with you. And that's a huge gut punch. So in this show, it's dealing with family of Nolan, who betrayed you and left you, but still loves you, versus the parents that are there for you, or they're physically there for you, but fucking suck. Like it's mostly about who you decide is your family.
I think because we're getting both sides of that, we're getting Mark's side and we're getting Eve's side. It wouldn't surprise me if that's the way that they get those two characters together, is through that shared
again, Kirkman,
trauma.
Get them together. Do not kill Eve or Mark.
They're not going to kill you. Nah, I can't see it happening unless one of them gets a job and they can't do the show anymore. Like I don't, and even then, recast. Like yeah. They shouldn't, but if they needed to.
So one of my favorite things is the Immortal is, I don't know if it's not talked about enough or I'm just obsessed with it, is the Immortal being Abraham Lincoln. Abraham Lincoln was immortal. He got shot in the head by John Wilkes Booth. They took him in and he took on another life.
Yep.
And he's Abraham
and
Lincoln.
And not just Abraham Lincoln. He's been a bunch of different people like throughout time.
Yeah.
Sort of thing. He's been around.
So hearing Reginald VelJohn or Principal Winslow like misquoting Abraham Lincoln, it makes me think of like Invincible can go clarify.
Did you say this? Yeah.
But like, nobody knows, right?
I could see it being William who does that. Like if William ever has an encounter with him, like if he's like, I heard this once, and I think the best way of playing that scene out is if Immortal turns around and it's like, yeah, it wasn't my finest quote, really, was it? So it's like it was him, but it's just like, yeah, it wasn't a very good one.
Right. That's the thing. Who knows that he's Lincoln? Maybe Cecil? You think Cecil has to know, right?
I think Cecil probably knows, but that might be it.
Will Duplicate know?
I mean, down the line. Yeah, I love that. Like again, as soon as
that's again watching this with Stevie, I feel so bad because I spoil shit.
Yeah, I managed to keep my mouth shut, but like as soon as Rex is in the locker and you hear Duplicate, and I'm like, oh yeah, I'd completely forgotten that was a thing until that moment, like split seconds before it happened, and then I was like, yep, that's a thing. Yeah. It's so good. It's really hard to talk about this show without spoiling stuff that we know from the comics. But like
but here's the thing. Okay, we've said it before. We said it again. If you read the entire series, it really doesn't spoil the show.
It doesn't. It enhances.
I guess I'm more afraid of spoiling the comic than the show.
Yeah. I think because we know how long it takes, and we know what is in the comic, so we know what to expect in the show, whereas we don't know what the show is going to do. We know that the show so far this season has stuck pretty close to the books, but it isn't afraid to take swings and to change stuff and to do more, and to reorder some things. So like there was a scene in this episode where Mark takes Amber on a date to Vegas, lunch date to Vegas, and I was like,
literally going to bring that up.
That's some foreshadowing, right? Like that feels like some foreshadowing.
They have the backgrounds now for Vegas.
Exactly. We've seen what Vegas looks like.
So Kirkman, we're on to you. The comic guys know. If they
be afraid of dinosaurs.
For some reason, of all the things that I remember from the book, I remember Vegas.
Me too.
Like really, like it was
vividly.
It must have just been really impactful. But
It would have been
But there
the
was
same
a
sort of time that you and I
line.
were both working at comic book shops and stuff as well, probably reading it on like the Tuesday when it came in to ship or to sell on the Wednesday. So like it's like I just remember reading that issue and going, oh fuck. Like they've gone big there.
Yeah, and it's so funny because it's just a comic book, but for some reason, and Invincible is such like Invincible, even though they talk about Chicago in this and it takes place in the real world, quote, our world. It takes place in our world, I should say. So to see what happens to Vegas later, I mean, I'm not gonna spoil anything, but for some reason, I'm like, oh, like I've been to Vegas. Like that's crazy that's going down in Vegas.
And the fact that it's one of those, it's a permanent change. It's like it's a big deal that it sort of carries forward, and like it's not Devil Dinosaur. That's a Marvel character. What is it? Something dinosaur.
It's like Dinosaurus.
Dinosaurus. Yeah, I think it's some fun name. He's one of my favorite like bad guys from the book because he's a wacky looking character, but he's really smart, and that's his whole thing. And the way that Mark chooses to try and work with him for a while, and the way that it all plays out, it's so good. It's such a really interesting story, and I feel like that's around the time that he's falling out with Cecil as well. And that's really interesting time in the books.
It changes a lot. It changes a lot of stuff in the books. So guys, look forward to Las Vegas
coming back.
Yeah. And I thought that was funny too when he took her to the Eiffel Tower. I was like, oh, that's cool. I'm like, wait a second, what if it's not? What if it's
one of the other
is that a casino? Like, oh yeah, I got it.
There in Vegas.
Like I got it just a split second before, because the thing is, like, he said I couldn't take you all the way to Europe. You know, you
skin
burn your skin off. And Stevie said, well, he did it with Debbie though, right? And I was like, yeah, but he just meant it during lunchtime. He can't go that fast.
In an hour, you can't get there and back. Yeah.
But what made me laugh was, like, we all can picture, we haven't seen it. We've seen him take Debbie. We've seen Omni-Man take Debbie to like Italy and stuff.
Yeah.
But we know he's taking her to Paris. Like, it's something that feels like we know.
Absolutely.
And it makes Nolan more of a romantic, and then Mark can only
get as far as
Vegas. That Eiffel Tower, and it's so endearing to the character.
It's the equivalent of your parents going out for dinner to a nice fancy restaurant and you just taking her to Burger Mart. Like it's that. Yeah.
So you mentioned the Lizard League, which good. I never really knew until watching a sort of recap between seasons
that they're Cobra.
But I knew, because they don't look like Cobra.
No, but I mean, they're the fact that they're always
the dude that comes in later who's trying to take over gets shot in the head. Looks like King Serpent. What was Serpentar?
Serpentor? Yeah.
Something like that. I don't know.
Like the not Cobra Commander, other leader guy.
So I don't remember their headquarters. I don't remember their headquarters in the book, but their headquarters in here looks like the Terradrome toy from G.I. Joe.
Oh right, yeah, it does a bit.
Is it the Terradrome?
Something like that. They are very much like bad guys of that era. Your G.I. Joe, Transformers, Turtles, like they are like one for one. That you've got your named characters and then you've got your grunts. And they're always there. They are a joke. When Caesar was like, if they can't take down Lizard League, then they're not worth salt. Like they're not worth being around. Right. Basically, like, here we go. Oh yeah,
so yeah.
Totally.
That's the Cobra playset. The Terradrome, I think it's called Terradome.
Sure.
Not Technodrome. Terradrome.
Yeah, Technodrome is what I was thinking of. It's they.
So when I saw it in this, I'm like, oh well. Yeah.
Do we see it? I think we saw that building in the Eve special. If I remember rightly. It looked familiar. If not, then I'm pretty sure we saw it in the comics. Because when I saw it, I was like, oh, this is the Lizard League. Like I just instinctively knew it, and I can't remember where I knew it from. Like, that's the thing with the show and the books are now starting to blend together in my mind, like which happened in what, and I kind of love that because it's keeping everything fresh. It's bringing up memories of the books that I've not had for a little while now. Jeremy Kelly's here. I feel like we've got some bad news for Jeremy Kelly.
We do have bad news for Jeremy Kelly. We have some real bad news for Jeremy Kelly. And
should we save that
listen,
for the end?
We'll save it for the end.
Okay.
Jeremy, anytime we bring up the show through text messages and communications,
we always think about you.
We think about you and how this show goes, and we have bad news for you coming up in future episodes. We'll get to that at the end. So that's a teaser for you. We also haven't really tied in. Vactor's here. Vactor, hey. I don't know what your schedule's like, but we need to get you on the show.
Yeah. Definitely. I think we well, again, to tease it a little bit forward, we can start to plan some things like that a little bit more. So the back half of this season is looking good for us.
And Stevie says Invincible time again already. Yeah, I mean, we're going to be Friday.
Invincipod time has come around quick, but Invincible time is still been a week.
It's been weekly.
We get.
It's so funny. No. It's so funny because she walked in. She's gonna hear us say that after.
Okay, that's great.
She's behind, and then I don't know. Just distracted. Let's just say it now. Jeremy. I don't want to leave you hanging so long. But James's work. The reason why I do this at 7:30 in the mornings. James got a promotion at work.
Yeah.
And so he's working days instead of graveyards, which means he's going to be at work at 7:30 our time.
Yep.
And we'll be getting home in time.
Well, I'll be finishing up around like 8:30 your time. I'll be finishing up. So our new start time as of next week, as of next Friday, our new regular start time, things can change obviously, but our new regular start time will be 9 a.m. Pacific, 5 p.m. GMT British time. So thank you, Stevie.
That goes for live action Star Wars too.
That goes for live action Star Wars and
congrats.
all of our shows. Thank you, man. It's, I mean, as it stands at the moment, it's technically only a 3-month interim thing, but it's quite likely that it'll be permanent. I can't I'm really imagine a time, unless I hate it, that it won't be permanent. I'm looking forward to having evenings and weekends. Evenings and weekends I'll get back, which is nice. And it also means that I won't need to rush out and when we have to wrap these episodes up quick. Like it's really annoying when we're trying to book guests and stuff for the show that we're like, got to find a week that I'm not working a Wednesday or a Friday. So now it doesn't really matter. Like if we go long, and
we'll get those East Coast folks at noon.
It's a bit of a better time to get guests on. It's more like after work for UK people and like a little bit more of a sensible time for you guys. It's only people like you, Jeremy, who we always think about.
It's literally every single time, every text message about the time of the show, it's like, oh no, Jeremy won't be able to drop them
watch live.
Because I feel like Jeremy's like our he got into this show and trusted us enough to read the books sight unseen, bought compendiums without, just based on our recommendation, and we're so happy it worked out that we feel like we want to make sure we're making you nice and comfortable and catching up on the show when you can. But it's fine. It's
better for the show overall, for sure, I think. We like the episode title of this one was I was about 6 hours away from losing my virginity to a fish, which is a quote from the books, not said in the show, and doesn't play out that way at all.
I think it's
because did they flip this from the books? I can't remember how it plays out in the book. In the book, though, when I was watching it, I was like, is it a case of he goes down there, he thinks he's gonna have a fight, and then he's told, no, you're not fighting anyone, you have to marry?
Yes, I think you're correct.
I think that's how and they flipped because they got rid of that archaic custom, which I loved the way that they played it.
Yes. And she was saying, I love it how she said, "I've been down here,
I've been ruling.
you know,
Yeah.
I've been ruling this whole time." He just likes to go up and play superhero.
Yeah.
Yeah, it I think it was flipped. But I'm trying to remember in the book, does he actually lose his virginity to her?
No, I don't think so. No, I think that happens on dry land in his
I don't
bedroom.
think he's a virgin at this point anyway.
No, I think they might have. I think that was probably part of the joke with the virgin daiquiri thing. Not daiquiri, a virgin mai tai or whatever Eve gives him.
Yeah.
Yeah, Jeremy confirming. Thank you. It is flipped. I thought that was the case, and I love it. It's such a good way of doing it because yeah, we'd had plenty of action throughout the episode, but you know, people were still probably, if they'd just not done it that way, they would have been like, oh, there wasn't a lot going on in this episode. It felt a bit slow. Whereas it's doing it this way, giving it a fight. And then we get that moment where Cecil says, like, you're not your father, Mark. Like, you don't have to worry about this. And he's like, no, I'm not my father, but that's why I'm going to go back and that's why I'm going to go save them. Cool. Yeah. Jeremy confirming that this isn't.
He doesn't have sex with the fish in the comic, but doesn't want to spoil what happens. Now I don't remember. I need to.
I remember it being a thing, like it being a plot point because it's you know it's still a teen drama-y thing at that point. Like it's yeah. But I just love that moment where he's like, I'm not my father, so I am gonna go and save these people, even though they were trying to kill me. Like it doesn't matter what they want to do to me. I'm still going to protect innocence.
Yeah.
Which is
yes, and that's the first time where he was like, yeah, I'm not my dad.
Yeah, he wasn't worrying about it, and he was, and also like how many people told him? I think 3 different people either didn't or told him you're not your father, or brought up something about what we're just saying is Chicago's like is the way that's their linchpin like way of talking about the fight, and saying like, oh yeah, sorry, bit awkward, and like I know Eve does it, Debbie does it, Cecil does it, like Darkwing, like it comes up and it's just eating away at Mark, and it's you can see it. It's I mean it's eating away at Debbie as well in a different way, which I want to talk about. But like with Mark,
what's nice is in episode 1, he doesn't want to be seen because he's afraid of what people are going to think that he's going to be like his father. In this one, he finally makes the decision. The best way to prove that I'm not my father is by being seen and doing stuff like this. And so this is going to be a real good, like, he's really going to go out and start really superheroing in the name of good to prove that he's not his father. Maybe we do get the black and blue suit real soon.
I think it's coming. I think it's coming real soon.
Speaking of things flipped,
it could be a case of we get 2 Invincible title cards this season, 1 in the front half, 1 in the back half. And if we got it that way around, I could see like a lot crumbling off next week, and then the final reveal of the black and blue for episode 4. So that it's like, boom, here's the new look, here's the new suit. And then I could
do some sort of patching of all the different Invincibles from different
that'd be interesting
dimensions, sort of patching into like the weird designs, like the
I was thinking the back half of the season, the 2024 like early 2024 season stuff, that title card might not even say Invincible. The show will still be Killed Invincible, but if it says a different character's name and the way that could be revealed over 4 episodes would be really interesting to me, with a different logo on there, with a character that we teased last week that I'd like to see this season. I think I want to see that character this season. A young man, a young person.
Yeah. Something that was different that I noticed this time, and I don't fully understand, is the shot of the Pentagon now says parking in the front.
Oh, does it? Was that not in the? Was that not at the very end when you cut to like the alternate Earth? Was that where Russ was? Not Russ. Was that not where Angstrom went? Angstrom and the female Donald.
Oh,
I can't remember, but that would make sense.
Got it.
That would make sense if
Got
it's a different.
Because I'm like, it's been saying parking in the rear. That's like
Yeah.
the joke. The
Yeah.
joke in the book is like they use
It's
that Corey Walker's panel like all the
every
time.
issue. Yeah.
I love that it's in the show every single time.
Such a
like,
dumb little joke, but it's brilliant. Yeah. Yeah, the gender swapped Cecil and Donald was great.
That's right. That's where it was.
Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah.
Do we know who the actors that played those?
I didn't look it up. I didn't look it up. I didn't do the cool screen thing that you can do with Amazon.
Okay. So then, speaking of Donald, Debbie's like, the rest of us, Donald, he died.
Yeah. And Donald doesn't know.
So that's what Stevie said. She's like, oh no, does she not know? Or does he not know he's a robot? And I'm like, I guess not. That's not the same as the book, right?
I don't think so. I think he just gets some robot guts and he's fine. Like yeah.
I kind of like Donald more now.
I
never really liked Donald.
Donald was a character. He just spun out into Brit. Like that was Donald's like plot. Really was like he was introduced, and then as soon as Brit became its own book, he's just over there with Brit and is in that book more. So
I really like Donald. He was just like a ass kissing.
Yeah, he's a lassie. He was what's his name from the first phase of Marvel films. Like before that, like he's Coulson, yeah. Like when I first saw Coulson like in the MCU, I was like, yeah, I know who this is. This is Donald from Invincible, basically. Like, so he's that guy. But I like this, and the fact that he's curious about it, and he knows that Cecil doesn't tell everyone the truth, even the people closest to him. Yeah. Cecil plays Cecil is always like your Nick Fury type. Like that's exactly his role. He's got a scarred face instead of the eye. Like he's not gonna tell everyone everything. He's doing other things. When he says to Donald, grab that sound, send it down to the boys in R&D. Like Liz looked at me. Happen. Yeah, Liz looked at me and went, "What's up with the sound?" I was like, "Well, it seemed to daze Mark quite a lot, didn't it? Like it. Yeah, that's a weapon. That's a weapon that is useful."
As soon as Mark said, reading the book, you know that Cecil's always listening. I don't know if it's really mentioned in the show that much.
As soon as he puts that earpiece in, he's in his ear the whole time.
So when Mark and Debbie were having their moment in the kitchen, and Cecil pops up in his ear and says, "Kid, we need you." And he's like, and Mark was like, "Think he's listening too," which is so fucked up. Cecil's like the most
good guy.
He's really conniving. I think Walton Goggins is like the perfect casting. He's so good. Yeah. And I don't hear Walton Goggins, even though I hear Walton Goggins, I don't.
But Walton Goggins he's one of those character actors he does a lot of different roles. I think that's the thing with Walton Goggins. Whereas like Mantzoukas is always Mantzoukas, but Walton Goggins he's kind of a chameleon. He can be whatever he needs to be.
And he does it so perfect because Cecil's one of those characters where when you read him in the book, you're like, this guy's fucking shady.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like he has to be, otherwise we lose.
And he does save the day quite a lot. He is doing it for the right reasons.
But like he's essentially pulling Mark from a moment that he should be having with his mother.
He knows that Mark doesn't want to be there, and he knows that it's going to be a distraction for Mark, and he still sees Mark as a tool. Like he's used,
But so one of those things you have to remember while watching the show, and I get this more from the book, and I think they're just easing us into this, is that any scene with Mark, you have to remember that Cecil is also in this conversation.
He's there.
He is listening. And then as soon as Mark
will chime in when he needs to.
And as soon as Mark said, "Oh, that sound, what is that?" Or whatever Mark says about the kaiju sound, I'm like, fuck. And I knew it. I'm like,
giving him some ammo.
I'm like, you just showed Cecil that you have a weakness.
Yeah.
He's gonna put that sound in the fucking upgraded Reaniman.
Yep.
And he fought. Omni-Man was fighting 3 Reaniman. Mark 1 Reaniman, like phase 1.
Yeah.
Maybe phase 2 Reaniman.
Yeah.
And they were getting at Omni-Man a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah,
Now they
yeah,
have this
they're
golden
strong.
upgrade one. He has a whole army of them, and now
Mhm.
he's going to equip them with that sound. All those guys blasting that sound at Invincible, like, I mean, this is going to be great for the Invincible War. Again, spoilers if you haven't read it, but
Yeah, yeah.
all these different. We saw a Mark, we saw alternate dimension Mark. We've seen 2 now, at least. There's going to be more because we know
Mhm.
Angstrom can open up all dimensions, and we
And
know
we
that
know that
all those
in
dimensions
yeah.
have evil marks. So,
Yep, almost every single one is an evil mark. Yeah.
so it'll be. So here's what's going to be fun: is the Reanimen. Cecil's going to just bust out all these Reanimen to help Mark take out these other marks, and Mark's going to be like, "Wait a second, why the fuck did you have so many of these things that could take one of me out?"
Me, yeah. Yeah.
And I think that's going to cause a rift between them.
Of course it's.
So
Have we seen the White Room yet? Like the R&D
yes,
white okay.
yes. At
I
the end of when Cecil, it might have been at the end of season 1. I think it was episode
yeah.
8, after Nolan's done and Mark comes
Yeah.
back,
Because I
and
know
they're
that
in the White Room, and
that's
he
when we
says
first see
lights.
it in yeah.
Yeah,
That's when we
yeah,
first see it in the comics. And like that's also there's such a good reveal of Mark being surrounded by Reanimen in that. And it's like he knows it, he's figured it out that he's surrounded, and then they turn the lights on, and then it's just Reanimen all around everywhere, completely surrounding him. And that's another image that's burned into my memory from the comics that
yeah.
I want to see it. I can't wait to see that. And yeah, it's really fucking good. That prison that they've got that mark in their
Yeah.
Pentagon, that's also very, very similar to where Conquest gets held. Like the way that he's
Oh
strapped
yeah,
in, like that. Just I can just see that, and then they put him in a box that I think is just his head eventually. Like, yeah. As soon as I saw like those big bindings on him, and Conquest's a character that we've already seen like briefly
yeah,
in the show,
yeah.
so
That
you know
was
it's.
the Leo DiCaprio moment.
Mm-hmm.
The
Mm-hmm.
the
There was a
Invincible
couple.
Man
There was
saw
a couple
Conquest.
of Viltrumites that we've seen that I'm like,
Yeah,
oh, these guys have got a story. Like I know
yeah,
who some of these people
yeah.
are.
And again, this is what I love about the show, is it's doing what the book does,
Yeah,
which is like lay out little tiny things. And
and
so last year, like with Martian Man, or
yeah,
with the Martian, the
that's it.
Cichlids and stuff like that. And this time we're getting the astronaut.
It feels like the comic. It's been 2.5 years, but if you just watch season 1 into season 2, if you're catching up now and you're just blasting through them like an episode a day or whatever, you you wouldn't notice any difference. And it just feels like they're not trying to reintroduce you to storylines. They're not going like, hey, remember this plot line from 2.5 years ago? They're like, you'll get it. You'll figure it out. Like
Yeah,
watch the recap if you need the recap. But even if you skip the recap, you'll remember, you'll go, oh yeah, like it's the same as reading the comic. You're never gonna
yeah, the
flick back
comic.
through 60 issues to go, fuck, what was that guy? I know
Who's-
I've seen that guy before, but like,
Yeah,
you're like you'll get it. Just read the issue, you'll get it.
yeah.
Um,
Robert Kirkman will just devote a page to some random story, and you're like, all right, I guess I'll know later. And then
there was one that was
you'll know
introduced
later
in
in
this
like
show
30,
that we never
30
saw
issues.
in the one in Egypt that we'd never seen before
Yeah,
in the comic. That was completely a show original
yeah.
thing. I'm
And that's
sure
still
that'll
out
come up.
there. And I
Yeah,
think about it all the time.
I
And I'm
know
like,
because we don't
Kirkman's
know.
Kirkman's got it on a sticky note on a wall somewhere.
I'll get to it like season
He's
4.
got like a yellow sticky note that says mummy over here. And
Yeah.
then somewhere way over here on the other wall is another yellow card that says mummy.
Yeah.
And I will see where that plays
When
in.
basically it's the same sort of thing. He's talked about it in the old
You know what?
Invincipal's letters pages that like he'd sit there sometimes and he would be like, shit, I need a bad guy for this one. That one. Let's do another.
Yeah.
Let's check in with that guy.
Or he'll talk about threads that he forgot about.
Yeah.
Like, oh
Yeah.
shit, I never followed up on that. You know what it reminds me of? If you want to kind of equate it to something, if you've ever played the game Earthworm Jim,
Yeah, I love it. Yeah, yeah.
at the very beginning of the game,
Yeah.
there's a refrigerator hanging from a pulley system. You knock the refrigerator down, it launches a cow into space.
Yep.
And they're like, all right, this game is weird. But then at the end of the game, when you're facing the final boss, that cow comes back into play.
Yeah.
And that's Kirkman is dropping the cow or launching the cow.
I feel like we've talked about Earthworm Jim in relation to Invincible before, because it's a similar tone. It's definitely a similar tone.
Yeah.
I feel
funny,
like
space agey, weird, bright.
Just weird, different, fun stuff, like goofy at times, but still just a really good story. Yeah. Yeah, that it definitely fits in that sort of thing. Yeah, I love it. It feels so much like the comic book. The fact that there are these threads that they'll come back. We were so glad when this show got picked up for season 2 and 3, so we know there's going to be a third season for sure. Hopefully
he's already teasing about the cast of 3 being nuts.
Great. But I think this show is doing really well. I don't know if it does, like, in terms of numbers, but in terms of buzz, everyone loves this show. If you've watched the show, everyone loves this show. I don't know anyone who's like, I'm not too into it. Like, it's talked about on a lot of podcasts, a lot of websites and stuff like that. So that sort of engagement with a streaming show is really good. So it makes me go, fuck yeah, Amazon, like, just commit. Like, let's go. Let's do, because we'd be like, yeah, you could probably do it in 3 if you wanted to do it in 3. But the way that they're doing it, where they're not skipping over stuff, they're letting it breathe.
I feel like we can get to it in
5.
7 seasons.
5. 7 would be ideal. I think if they wanted to, they could do it in 5. And that would be, they could do all of it. If they wanted to do it and let it breathe and give those moments everything that they deserve, and to do everything that we want to see, 7, brilliant. Yeah. 6 seasons in a movie.
I mean, 8 episode seasons. Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. I mean, it's cliche now, the 6 seasons of the movie thing, but like,
I wouldn't mind.
I'd love a movie of that last arc. Like, that feels epic enough to do as a big, like, a 2 hour, like, because these are 45-minute episodes. The Atom Eve was 53. Like, so let's do an hour and a half, 2 hours for a finale, like, when we get there. But I don't want that for years yet.
And a happy ending. Like,
yeah,
that's my favorite thing about this fucking book.
It's coming. There was one thing, one little note, because I've run through all my notes here, but I noticed when Russ, or fake Russ, Martian Russ, is watching the TV, it's the first anniversary. It's the first anniversary of the original Guardians being killed. So it's been a year since Nolan's first thing there. We know last episode it had been a month, so they're taking some
since he fought him.
Yeah. But then, like, they've stretched out the length of season 1, and then probably some gaps in between episodes here. So yeah, some time. We haven't talked about Debbie, but we're running out of time. Debbie and her frustration, her depression, the way that when she's showing that house and you've got that asshole husband being really controlling and just an absolute dick. Like, I mean, I don't know what it's like over there, but over here, like, most of the time it's the estate agents that are cunts. But yeah, over there it was nice to see her just not quite under her breath, a little bit louder than under her breath, repeat that like she's not your pet. Seeing that was like, okay, she's got some frustrations, and it leads into what you were saying last week about, I don't know if this Debbie can forgive.
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know.
I don't know.
It doesn't happen. It doesn't happen immediately in the book.
Poor Stevie got spoiled.
It takes a while in the books, so I don't know if and when. I think when.
Yeah. Stevie was like last week was like, oh, I didn't know, or I guess Tuesday. It's like, oh, I didn't know that Omni-Man got back with Debbie. I'm like, sorry. Yeah. But
I mean, I think
I can't imagine it happening with this one, but we'll see.
I don't know, because it involves another character, and it's so much shit, like her grief, and I feel like they're hitting her grief and her anger and her depression and stuff so hard with the show now that it makes me go, oh, we're getting to that other character this season, whether
sooner
it's
than
like,
later.
probably I think in the back half of this season, but I think we're going to get there this season because it's a weird thing to say, but I think that's part of her arc for moving forward. Because it certainly is in the comics. That's how it plays out in the comics.
Yeah.
We'll see. I
am so excited about this show. This episode fired me up much more than last week. Last week, it was great to be back.
It felt like hey, we're back. Whereas this was like, and now we're going.
This is what it is. Yeah.
But also the stinger at the end where we saw Angstrom and stuff, it made me go, oh, it's juicy. We're getting into that stuff. So
yeah. Oh my God. Can I just talk about Woman Donald? Woman Donald.
So good.
The outfits. It just looked like Donald in drag. And it made me happy because I had this feeling like regular Donald would also wear drag. Like there's something about Donald that's always like he's so
straight-laced, button up.
He's so straight-laced, but he's so such a company stooge that he needs
to cut loose at the weekends.
He needs he just when he goes off to his private life, he needs something really to let loose. And I feel like
maybe
I feel like that might just maybe it's not
just what he does.
A woman Donald. Maybe it's just Donald, and he is he's either trans or a cross-dresser or something. But I feel like that's something Robert Kirkman would play with, like
especially like this the as he said, like this new iteration, this like new refinement on the story. He's like, that's he's still male.
Yeah.
Like, well, yeah, like who knows?
But it just cracked me up seeing him like that way was just I don't know.
Cecil was one thing,
funny.
But Donald was the funnier look.
Well, the thing is, like Cecil, look like a woman version of Cecil.
Yeah.
Whereas
Donald still looked like Donald.
Donald with a wig. Yeah.
Yeah, totally.
I don't know how you pull that off in animation, but I mean the facial design on Cecil was definitely different.
Yeah.
Looked like more of like a I don't know, Helen Mirren type or something like that kind of presence. I don't know who did the voices, but
I wanted to pause it, but I was enjoying the scene too much because it's the sort of thing that you can imagine them stunt casting like Helen Mirren just for that one little like line or something. Yeah,
and that's the problem with this show being on Amazon Prime is it's connected to IMDb, and it has the X-ray or whatever. So when you pause it, you can just see who it is. And so I did that real quick a couple of times, and I'm like, I did doing that.
Yeah, that's the reason that I didn't.
Yeah. Well, awesome, man. We'll be here next Friday at 9 my time.
Yeah, 5 my time, 5 p.m.
Yeah, so
that'd be fun.
I should see about getting a guest.
Cool.
I did reach out to Hector. I'll see if he's busy, dude.
Yeah,
and with the strike just ending,
I was going to say, congratulations to all the actors out there. Hopefully, the deal was exactly what you wanted. It's exciting times. It's good. I'm glad that everyone is back. We'll see how it goes next year with the editors.
And then thanks for everybody for joining us in the live chat. Thanks for downloading and listening and watching our show and subscribing and liking and all that stuff. Kirkman, Otley, Walker, anybody else involved with the show, if you want to be on anytime, talk to us about Invincible, we would absolutely love for you to join us. We love you. We can love you too. That's fine.
Yeah, we love you.
But man, I'm more fired up for the show than anything. I'm not sad that there's only 2 left. I'm glad that we get 2 more Invincibles before we jump into
we know roughly when it's
we know
back.
Where it's going. And it's exciting.
Yeah.
Thanks, James. Anything else?
No, that's it. I'm good.
Awesome. We'll see you next Invincible Friday for an all new